Hello and welcome to this Project in a Box video. In this session we're going to be doing a walkthrough of Live Edition, having a look at the tool and how it works from both the browser and the Windows application interfaces. So let's go and have a look at that. So we're going to start with the browser first. Live Edition is where we host the system for you on a SaaS basis, and you can connect to your server through two different interfaces, pure browser interface or the Windows application. We're going to focus mainly on the browser interface in this particular session. So connecting to your server, and because you have your own unique server instance, you can change the style and layout of it if you want to. So this background image and the text and the logo and the color schemes can be altered to match your business if you want to. So here I've logged in, and actually I've been on before, so it's remembered the project I was working on previously, and it's offering me the sort of simple or sidebar navigation for that. But I'm going to go off and look at the overall structure of the system here, and then we're going to go and select our project from that. So here on my select project page, I've got my list of portfolios and my list of projects. And if I'm just an occasional user with just one or two projects, and I log in, I will just see all projects at the top and my one or two projects listed in the bottom. Here though, I'm a PMO type person. I've got 150 projects here, and if I clicked all projects, I'd see 150 of them at the bottom. But I want to be able to navigate them via groupings. So here I'm looking at just the projects that are involved in the information services department, and I could go to all the other different groupings that are set up here to get particular collections of those projects. So when we see our project list at the bottom, we see some information about those projects. That can be statuses and key KPI type information based on what you're collecting from your projects, and we're calculating for you either automatically or you're loading in from the various source files. So here's my project, in this case website redevelopment, and when I select it, it opens the full main navigation diagram, which is a diagram. Now we have a house style for our standard methods and the most popular ones. You can personalize it yourself if you want to. You can put in your own methods and your own diagrams. And this means you can really choose what you want your team members to access, and it's going to make it very easy for them to interact with the system. They simply pick the project from a list, they come to here, and the diagram lays out what you want them to do. In this case, we've got some delivery process steps and discussions area, we've got some reporting, some basic administration, and some live interaction with data around plans, risks, issues, resources. So it's pretty straightforward for people to see all that. They don't need to navigate a menu structure or understand how the tool is laid out. And they might see different things depending on which project they're in or what permissions they might have. So if I click on Project Concept, it's going to show me the documentation for the process step of Project Concept. And here I can see that, and as I go through opening out these documents and looking at the content, it's going to preview that for me on the right hand side. So the browser always attempts to preview things. In the Windows application, we would download the file for you as a viewed file. It would open in the associated application, and that's great. And that would work in the browser, and you can choose to do that if you want to. However, if you're not on a laptop where you're going to have all those apps, but are on a smartphone or a tablet, and you may not have things installed for opening and viewing spreadsheets, etc. This is great because we've converted them into HTML for you and give you a simple preview. You can read the preview there, you can make it bigger or small depending on how much space you have, you can open it in a new window, you can even print it from here if you need to. So that's very helpful, getting you quick access to the files, and in practice we generally think this gives access to about 90% of the files you find in most projects. They are often Word files, Excel, PDFs, images, links to website shortcuts, Planner and PBX files, and therefore, and that makes up about 90% of the file types you see on projects. So so that's an example of a Word file being previewed, etc. Now if we get to a file we don't have a preview for, and we don't currently have one for emails, it does offer you the ability to view. You would download it, opening it then in Outlook or something like that. So there's a route for either, but this is about trying to keep it really easy, because most people that are working their way through projects, a lot of the time it's just reading stuff that's there already. Templates are started as blank and changed, but a lot of things you're collecting is evidence, and you want to just be able to read that nice and easily. And of course, even when you want to work on things, you want simple options. So here we've got view and check out, and if we come to some of the PBX files, for example, here we have view and edit, because PBX files are our advanced version of templates, if you like. All of our methods, the 13, 14 methods that we provide off the shelf, are available with Word templates, because that's the most common thing that people can view. However, Word templates are not always ideal. The way that Word works isn't best for templates always, and people very rarely use the full facilities of Word for what they're after in a template, which is collecting basic tables and structures of information, sections, headings, lots of text, etc. So we've put in place our own format, PBX, which takes that template idea a bit further. The first thing is it looks to read like and in preview mode, pretty much like a Word file. You can put logos and headers and footers and section headings, and you've got control over the colour and size and format of the text, etc. You can put in comments and notes and guidance rather than space for content, and you can collect things from pick lists and dates and times and all that sort of stuff. But when you come to edit this is where it becomes in its own, because here you can edit it directly in the browser. You don't have to bring it down as a file. Again, meaning you can edit it easily from tablets and smartphones and any device anywhere. It also then jumps into a section basis, so you can jump to the section you want and start making changes. So I don't have to go and scrolling through the Word file to find the section I'm interested in. I jump to tab and get that. When I've made the changes, I simply save, and it's effectively checked out and checked back in that file. And I've now got the latest version. Everyone else can see that with the changes that I've made here. And behind the scenes, of course, it's doing all of its detailed version control thing. And we've got all historical versions, and we can do approvals and all those other things. And that's for our sort of advanced users, project managers, etc. Your typical team member is going to be reading things, or if they've got permissions to edit things, they'll be editing them. And most of the editing they'll do is in registers and templates. A lot of the other documentation is stored really only as evidence, of what goes on in the project. Of course, you can change those other files if you want to. You can check them out, change them, check them back in. But this is about trying to get the simple flow of the basic stuff really easy for people. So I've made some changes to my file there. Of course, as I work my way down through this process, I'm going to be seeing the documents that's appropriate for that process, as we said, the concept. Now, when I'm in, I could come back to my main navigation and move on to the next process. But we also offer, as well as the main navigation, a sidebar navigation. Not as much space here, but you can put on here the things that you want people to have immediate access to. So if I'm moving on to the next process, I can do that straight away from there. And now I see the things appropriate for start. Some different things to the concept, and some different things again to the other processes down here. Or I could jump off to the discussions threads. No threads actually set up here, but I can get to them nice and easily and come back from them again. So this ease of navigation, you decide what these people are going to have in their sidebar navigation. We've got some reporting here as well. We'll come on to that in a minute. The other sorts of files that people are regularly working on, hopefully, are their schedules, risks and issue registers, project costings, all those sorts of things. You can use a range of different files for those. You can use Excel, you can use Microsoft Project, etc. A lot of people use our Planner tool. Planner is very popular. People have tried it and used it in the free version, and use it for all that sort of heavy-duty project controls work. Planner, of course, the standalone Planner is a Windows app, but if you're working with a Planner file here, you have the ability, as well as previewing it, to edit in the Planner on the browser. So again, you can do it all from the browser. You don't have to leave and open up something new, meaning you can do it from your smartphone if you want to. So I can jump, it's now opened in Planner Live, and I can jump to find my task here, which is this one, video content, and I can simply edit that in here. And I can say, well, that task is now 60% complete. And that's now updated in the timeline. And I can, if that's all I want to do, I could, of course, work on risks and issues as well, or my costing information. But I'm just going to simply make that change and save it. And that, of course, is checking it back in. And now when we come back through to our process, the preview is showing with the extra content in, with the extra percentage complete showing. So the key templates and registers that we work on all the time can be done from in the browser. Again, making it nice and simple for people to find the things they need and work on them straight away. Coming back to our navigation diagram up here, the other things people often do to feed reporting is, as well as updating files, is updating info. And again, we can come and do that here. We can change our key commentaries, etc. And again, this is a whole load of properties we might collect here. You can choose what these are. You can personalize them and using pick lists and date pickers and text fields and all sorts of different things to get configuring the data that you want to collect. And then you can set those up as standard views. So this is the common collection that we know people use to feed their reports with. So you can edit that all here and write that straight into the database. You can of course come and produce reports from here as well. So we'll do a report in just a second. The first thing we'll do is have a live review of some of that content. So again, the database holds the latest copies of all the plans, risks and issues that were checked in as updated files. So the change we just made a second ago will have fed that database. When I come to here, I see project tasks. Last time I was here, actually, I was looking at overdue tasks. So let's just go back to the full project. It's always immediately helpful actually to see there are no overdue tasks in this current project. So we've got the project summary here, and you can see things here depending on your permissions. So I could see all the way up to the portfolio and that larger collection of tasks if I wanted to, like that. So that's going to go and get me all the project plans from all the projects in this portfolio. Of course, not all users can see this sort of view, but it's showing me interdependencies and all that. And I've got sort of 160 odd tasks here. Too many to see on this one screen. So I can use a view, and that's what I'd done earlier, to go and look at an overdue task list and find what the overdue tasks are in this portfolio. I know none of them are from this project because none came up when I was looking at the project overdue tasks combination earlier. So this allows me to get nice and quickly to key bits of information. Exactly the same thing works with risks and issues and resources. It's a very, very similar interface with the idea of data range and view. So once you've used it a few times, it's easy to pick it up. And it remembers what you used last time as well. So you're not always having to keep changing settings to find the things that you're interested in. So here's my portfolio and a resource chart for it, showing the demand for resource across the particular individuals that are identified. So if I come down here and find myself, obviously I'm working on most of these projects, and I can see how many hours of time that is for me in each particular period. And I could come here if I wanted to and get my own resource chart actually. So I'll get all my tasks displayed as a resource chart, and I'll see, I think, that I'm pretty overbooked in some periods and less so in others. So that's, pretty easy to use, all that sort of stuff. Like I say, day-to-day admin you can do from here as well, adding stages, adding users, accessing the full functionality menu for people that need it. But reporting is often an important part of project management, and so let's come to here and do instant project statement report. That's going to go to the report dashboard. It's going to pre-choose the project statement report, which is pre-configured and saved, and run that for me for this project. And that means, again, people are not having to work out the complexities of how to run a reporting system. This is going to be our most commonly used report, so let's just go and get it straight away. We've got access now to the report dashboard with all the available report templates to choose. I'm just going to hide that away so we can see the actual report. This is the HTML version of it. It's actually produced a Word version for me as well, which you'll find better if you're a desktop user. But like I say, if you're working on a smartphone or a tablet, you need to see the browser version first so you can get it straight away. Again, not having to leave the browser to do important things. So here's my report content, all nicely summarized for me. My top 5 risks and issues, benefits information, project timeline, list of overdue tasks. As we saw, there were no overdue tasks on this project earlier. So I can get that, and I could then publish that report to share it with other people if I wanted to get it automatically emailed out to recipients. So getting that stuff done here, of course, now I'm here, I could come in and choose a different report from the available reports library and rerun that, and I could open that in a new window so I can compare reports side by side if I want to. Again, about getting things done within the browser space so that everybody can use the same interface from wherever they are. And this is designed so that if you're using it on a smartphone, you get the same experience. You might find, if we just narrow this down to a sort of small size here, that it lays it out slightly differently. We won't have room for the sidebar when we're in a sort of portrait formation. So we give you the full navigation diagram at the top, so you can jump around between things and you get your content laid out down the side. So if I come back to my start, I get this now, same idea, but I've now got the documents pane and then my preview panes below that. So nice and easy for people to use like that. And in fact, other ease of use things, adding new content to my project. Let's come down here and say we've got some documentation to add to our PID document, and collecting evidence is obviously an important part of what happens in projects. I'm going to use add, drag and drop, and I'm simply going to drag onto here the things that I've been given that are important to this project so far that I need to include. So I've got, we'll just select a couple of things like that, 3 things, just drag them onto there, and you'll see it's just going through here and processing those 3 files. I can see they've now appeared here in the tree, and I'm running add only here. So this is going to double check to make sure I'm not overwriting anything, and it won't let me overwrite by adding something of the same name. If I instead choose to do add an update, and I've got a supplier sending me the same document every week, a new layout for example, so they send the new layout and I can add that, and that will then say, oh, I've already got a copy of layout, I'm going to make this version 2 of the same file. So I can build my history into that process. In fact, if we come and look at layout now, obviously I get a preview of it, and I can see I've got 2 different versions added separately by the same person as it happens, but separate versions. And so adding that new content is also really easy to do. When you've got drag and drop, that's great. If you don't have drag and drop, you can still use browse to add things, and you would come back to the document and use add file, and then you browse the files you want or add an internet shortcut, etc. But drag and drop is obviously a really simple, easy way to do that. So loads of stuff there in the browser. That's all about day-to-day project working, and that's pretty straightforward. I mean, you don't really need a great deal of training to read what's said on the button and follow it. And that's about getting people easily engaged with doing the things they need to do. If it's not lots of time and it's not lots of extra effort, but it's giving them lots of extra useful capability, then they're much more likely to adopt and use it. As I say, behind the scenes, we do have full detail, so you can come to the admin and settings menu here, and you can do admin stuff as well. Let's just go and look at it from the menu form here. So we'll see we can create new projects, we can delete projects if we need to, again all depending on the permissions we've got, updating stages, permissions models, managing collaborations and approvals and all that sort of stuff, adding new users, managing users' permissions, managing licenses. All those sorts of things are doable from here. So most of what you do over the life cycle of a system and everything that you do day to day can be done from this browser interface. Now, as I say, we also have another interface. We have a Windows application, and very heavy duty users of the system and people like administrators, PMO people may find it beneficial to get the Windows application installed. They'll get the same experiences broadly that we've had with the browser. It works in a slightly different way, but if we come into the same project that we were on a second ago here, I can come in and I'll get slightly different diagram layout, but it'll be the same sort of idea that I can click into the process and see the content. But when we're here, in fact, let's go and look at the one where we've just added some new content to PID. So all those things we've just added we can see here. Here we do again have basic and advanced modes, where we're encouraging the basic mode of view and checkout, and the more advanced things being available here with history, audit trails, etc. showing through there. However, here when we view files, we view them and open them in an associated application. We don't try and preview some things in the browser, in the interface, and open everything else. Everything is always done view and checkout change by opening it in the associated application. Because on a Windows desktop PC, we should have those applications present to do that, and then we'll get a better experience. So printing from Word would be better printing from actual Word than from our HTML preview of Word. So slightly different approach, but basically the same capabilities. The thing that does make this different, so when I come to look at my project task, for example, and do that sort of analysis that we were doing earlier, we've still got the same data range and view. So I could say I want to see all the project tasks and I want to see the default view of them. That's the same thing we were doing in the browser earlier. Is that here I can also choose to go a step further. I can edit the views. Rather than picking a standard view, I can change it, customize it to make what I want it to be, and then save it as a new view. It will then appear for other users. So this is where administrators can start personalizing the system. And when it comes to reporting, rather than just choosing a standard report from the library, which I can do again, I can choose my report from the library. So we'll pick project statement to print, which is what we were looking at earlier. So I could run that from here and it would open directly into Word for me. But I can also then customize and change it. So I can change what's in the analysis and what appears in each space in the report from here, and then save it as a new report specification so that people in the browser can access those. So customizing of that, customizing of the methods, etc., is all done from the Windows application, where we've got a much richer interface, and we need a much richer interface because we've got quite complicated forms for managing all this, which are not going to be fantastically, straightforward for using on the browser. But most users, we're just wanting to get that consistency of choosing and applying the same report. They definitely don't need to know about all that setup stuff, but somebody needs to do the setup stuff, and that's where we do it from, in here. Okay, so that's a quick walkthrough of Live Edition, the browser interface and the Windows app. Plenty more videos on the site that take you through a lot of these areas in a bit more detail. This was just a quick run through of all that, but of course if you have any further questions, you'd like to see a demo and talk about your particular requirements and how we can help you address those, then just let us know and we'll be delighted to help. Thank you very much.